Suave afternoon. This is Brother Suave, your mind-blowing, thought-provoking, and eye-opening on-air personality, life coach, psychotherapist, author, and creator. Hope you guys having a suaveless day.
Yeah, and with that, let's commence the pay.
Okay, I'm so suavelous, you so suavelous.
Together we can fix the trauma that's befalling us.
Divine social interactions remains marvelous.
Mind-blowing, suavelicious talk, higher consciousness. But think, let not your hearts be troubled, Dr. Brother Suave.
Divine light give you double.
Greetings. This is Dr. Brother Suave, your mind-blowing, thought-provoking, eye-opening, on-air personality, life coach, psychotherapist, author, and creator, and your social divine therapist and host of Social Therapy with Dr. Brother Suave. Tonight, we're going to be talking about some very sensitive issues, matters of the heart, and being able to share some mind-blowing, thought-provoking, and eye-opening dialogue. So tonight's topic, family, life, and love. We're going to be talking about something that hopefully we can empower those, but it's all about listening and processing. See, many times our voices aren't heard regarding child rearing, relationships, and our personal experiences with our female counterparts. I'm not here to start any friction. There's already been enough of that in the past. But I'm also definitely not a yes man. And speaking of yes man, I have a question for my sisters. I want to ask you a question. Do you only love me when my answer is yes? I ask this question because it appears that when we have a disagreement or I happen to say no, sometimes my sisters go straight for the jugular. You go from 0 to 100 in a matter of seconds. It becomes to be very disrespectful. The name calling comes, and my orientation is under assault. And to me, these actions and a lot of other brothers, this seems to exemplify the definition of hate. And sometimes it seems worse than racism. So as I define the definition of hate, it's saying feel intense or a passionate dislike for someone. So when I think about some synonyms, you loathe someone. You have this hatred, this resentment for us. Hostility, ill will towards us. Sometimes you are disgusted by us. Contempt, bitterness, and distaste for us. And so as a result of these reactions going from 0 to 100, sometimes I feel that sometimes when we make our thoughts known or we make decisions that sometimes in the best interest of us, there seems to be an issue. Now, this dynamic is so contentious. I just think it's because right now more brothers are starting to communicate better, communicating their real thoughts and speaking their minds. But sometimes it's being interpreted as an assault. It seems like the word no is unacceptable. And as a professional, it just reminds me of my experience working with autistic kids. When an autistic kid is told no, they get upset and they hit their head. Sometimes they'll raise their hand to hit you, and sometimes they will. But sometimes they get really violent because they don't respond well to know. They don't respond well to redirection. And this reminds me of these dynamics between the brothers and the sisters. And so please don't misinterpret me saying my sisters are autistic. I am not saying that. So please just listen and don't take offense, but just listen. So tonight, we're going to be discussing these dynamics along with how to improve our relationships with ourselves, our families, our children, our community, and how to become a better man, a better father, and a better human being. And lastly, I want to say, rest in peace, Kevin Samuels. Listen, you may not agree with his attitude, his technique, or his presentation, but truth, facts, and numbers, they are stubborn and they don't lie. But I want to say to some of the people who profess to be a Christian, who have these nice posts about being a man or woman of God, but then you say these harsh things, viciously celebrating another human being's death. And at the end of the day, I just don't think it's a good thing to viciously celebrate a person's death because you don't agree with their viewpoints. So I just think it's hateful. And we just have enough hatred in this world. So tonight, I'm going to be having on my very special guest, Mr. Fred Jones. And we're gonna have a nice dialogue because this month is, of course, Mental Health Awareness Month. But on the Dr. Brothers Social Therapy with Dr. Brother Suave, we on this. I'm proud of you, Black man, and Black Man's Dialogue. So, Mr. Fred Jones, I'm going to read this. He's a funding advisor. Aside from having an abundant career in the financial sector, Fred had a vivid and colorful life, full of great highs and compelling challenges. After graduating from Miami Central High School as an elite student athlete, he attended South Carolina State University, the Bulldogs, where he played football, working to train and condition his mind and body for the demanding sport that would later be a blessing as the events of his life began to unfold. After settling down and starting a family, Fredrick thought he was on his way to achieving the American dream. Brother, you did. But soon found himself in the midst of a contentious divorce. After dust had settled, he lifted himself up and continued to carry on, raising two suave, amazing daughters who are his pride and joy. The oldest, who graduated from a college in Florida in just 3 years, currently practices law in the state of Florida, and his youngest is currently in college in the state of Florida studying film. So I just want to tell you, I'm proud of you, Black man. And so without further ado, let's bring on Mr. Fred Jones.
Thank you, Brother Suave. I don't know how to take that, but that was very flattering. It's kind of surreal to hear those words, but I just want to thank you for the introduction.
Thank you.
Before I get into that, I must say, shout out to my Rocket Nation and the Bulldogs, number one, and you're okay yourself, Mr. Suave. And we're not going to talk about the school you went to, but it's all good.
It's okay. But y'all are champions, I believe. So yes, congratulations. Right. And you not only being a winner, you coming from a winning program, Central South Carolina,
right,
and being a winner yourself. And I celebrate you.
I appreciate that. I really do.
So listen, thank you for coming on, man. You know, tonight we just having a dialogue, you know, and I always want to tell my brothers out there, I'm proud of you, Black man. You know, sometimes our voice is not heard, but I'm going to tell you, I love you. I celebrate you. I respect you. And so I always tell my brothers out there, if nobody tell you I love you, I'm going to tell you because I don't have a hang up on it, you know. And so listen, ladies and gentlemen, you know, this brother, let me tell you, it's funny. I've known him, but didn't know him all my life. I remember he was a best friend, a brother of my very first cousin. And so I would see him from time to time back in the days at our school, Westview Junior High, but we really didn't speak. I didn't say too much to him. However, I was living in Atlanta, and my aunt passed, and I moved back. I moved back to Miami. You know, we were just going through some family things, and I remember us connecting. Maybe after not seeing him, maybe 30 years or so. Nevertheless, we connected and we continued to speak and learn so many things that we had in common as athletes, as men who had been married, men who had some challenges, some struggles, but also having an abundant life. And we was able to transition to not really knowing each other to becoming brothers. And let me tell you, brothers, you're not always the only one that's going through things, and we have to always take pride in our experiences. So when we have experiences, good, bad, or indifferent, we have to somewhat try to capitalize off those experiences and make the best. But one of the things that we did, Fred and myself, we began to share,
right,
and learn so much about each other. And that's why I can sit there and say that brother's a winner. And I just want to tell you, man, I appreciate our friendship, our brotherhood, and man, you know. So yeah, so tell the listening audience a little bit about yourself, man, and about your life's journey.
Well, thank you very Suave. We went, you and I, we met back a long time ago through your cousin. We're like brothers, and like you said, it's funny that we became brothers through different things, different avenues, through our people passing and with COVID and all these kind of things. So I'm going to go into a little bit about myself, but before I do that, Mother's Day's just passed. So for you outstanding women out there, we salute you. My mother was a strong woman. I just recently lost her to COVID, and my sister, who was strong women, who taught me the definition of what a mother really is. And there's no slight. With everything, there's pros and cons, different sides of the coins. There's some outstanding men out there, as well as some deadbeat men out there. But I'm just going to tell you a little bit about my journey. It's my truth. It may not be your truth, but the truth needs to be told that, some of us can relate to, and most of us need to hear it. Mm-hmm. And, Brother Suave talked about, before he gave me that introduction, he was talking about relationships and how some people are like mental with it, and they don't know how to react when you say no. And you always want you to be a yes. And I want to talk about yes man and no man and a Superman complex. But one of the things I wanted to, speak about was when you was talking about when you say no, there's two kind of things that happens when you say no. And I used to always tell people about this one. Let's talk about artists and little kids. When they draw on a piece of paper, some of them make a mistake while they're writing. Some of them will get a eraser and erase. And some of them just ball up the paper, tear it up, instead of having to start over, to rebuild. So instead of rebuilding, they destroy, because they don't know that there's another method or another mean to it. So instead of understanding the process, they tear it up. And you see it all the time with different kids. Some kids will really just go into it and just erase. Other ones will just ball up the paper after paper after paper, wasted material, wasted time all over the floor, when they could have just erased or corrected that mistake or just got a better understanding. And so that's how I relate to it. When he was saying about the yes and the no, I was one of those yes men. I wanted to be Superman to my family. And, when I was growing up, my mom, my dad wasn't really a part of my life at first, was away. So I wanted to be different. And I saw the love that my mom gave me. So when I did fall in love and got married, I always wanted to say yes. I always wanted to do the best and never let my family down, regardless of what I had to do. Whether I had to hustle, this or that, check bouncing, they never had to worry about anything. But it came that day where you couldn't perform as Superman. So that's the story part of it I want to get into. Do I got enough time to go into the story now?
Well, you can, but what we're going to do, we're just going to go right quick into a station identification. It's about a quarter till, so we'll be right back.
Programs like this are made possible by Neighborhood Planet Broadcasting Systems, Neighborhood Planet Network, iBlister Digital Media Creative, and from contributions to NPN TV from viewers like you. Thank you.
What's up, everyone? I'm Brandy the Disconnector, wife, show host, entrepreneur, investor, and ICS certified life coach, here to tell you that I'm on NPN TV, the network that is by us and for us. Lock in and let's get it.
Welcome, and we're back. This is Dr. Brother Suave, host of Social Therapy with Dr. Brother Suave, and our special guest, Mr. Fredrick Jones. So before we went on our station identification, he was mentioning something about this Superman complex. So what do you mean by the Superman complex, Mr. Jones?
Well, when I say Superman complex, that means you feel like you can do everything. You can do everything. You always wear that cape. You have no vulnerabilities. You don't let nobody even see you cry. Don't let them see you feel. You're the man of steel. So that's the Superman complex, that you don't need anybody. You can scoop down, and the boys in the street call it Captain Saber. But, that's the Superman complex. You think you could do it all. And as athletes, we all have that complex because as elite athletes, we all think we're immortal in the beginning, that nothing can faze us. We can jump over cars. We're never going to get old. We don't never get tired. We just have this complex. We don't never give up. We don't never lose. We never, retreat or surrender. We always fight. Never cry. Coach say, suck it up, get back in there, push. So that's kind of what I mean by the Superman complex, that nothing can penetrate you. But Superman does have kryptonite and does have some weakness.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you're right, because sometimes, man, but see, one of the things I can say about the Superman complex is when it comes to this dynamic of our family makeup, some of us need to have it because being a head, being a leader, being a man, we're driven to take care of our families, and how we're biologically made, how our creator made us. It's like our punishment was to labor to take care of our families.
Right.
And our female counterpart was to labor and have those babies and labor and go through that thing. So we were biologically made like that. And sometimes now, I always believe overcompensation is always bad.
Right.
So we know that Superman doesn't exist. And so that complex of ours trying to be there, we have to learn how to manage that in some form or fashion. But we are driven to take care of our families and our children. And so I think sometimes we can do certain things that's counterproductive, but that's why sometimes you got to pay attention to your body and having a compatible companion to have those dialogues with you, and sometimes we can't allow our egos to get in the way.
Exactly. That's real true. I'm going to go on a little bit about my story so that they can kind of understand where we're coming from. So, like you said, I graduated from Miami Central. I ran track and played football. I was able to get a full scholarship at South Carolina State, pretty successful. Broke my leg going into my senior year. Thought I was going to make it to the pros, but I set out, was red-shirted. They changed the views of what they looked at for receivers. Beginning, they wanted the little short, fast receivers. I'm kind of, challenged there, like 5'7", but I'm still good. Still got that blade speed. But they wanted more like the Jerry Rice and, Terrell Owens type. So I was a little bitter about that, but it gave me a chance while I was redshirted to understand that I had a brain. So I actually focused on class, and I was making B's and C's to straight A's. And I was like, whoa, I got a pretty decent brain there. So I went on ahead and majored in accounting and and got out, and still was a little bit bitter about the football thing, but that's another story. But in college, we had this big ego thing, being a star athlete, you had your pick and chooses of the lot.
Yes.
And I kept my feelings and everything in check, as far as females came, because I seen a lot on the campus, and I know the games that they play, so I felt like I was untouchable because I knew the game. So
Yeah.
fast forward, I got out of that and started working in the businesses and meeting different kind of people and those kind of things. And a lot of the people I hung out with of the Spanish culture, and they always had, family gatherings where they would bring their significant others. So I started changing the way I thought. I'm like, well, I don't really have nobody I want to bring out in the daytime, those kind of things. So I started looking for a mate. I always wanted that family, the big house with the white picket fence. And so finally somebody introduced me to my ex-wife. She was gorgeous, kind of reminded me of Rihanna. I was like, okay. She played the little, thing like that, but she was so good to me. And there's a lot of things I saw that I ignored because I thought I was untouchable. I thought I can change things. You can't change people. Got to pay attention to those signs,
Yes.
And you can't make nobody be what you want them to be. But
Yeah.
other than that, she gave me my first daughter, and she became my queen for doing that. Now, being a queen, sometimes people have to earn that queen thing, or not just be inherited in that. So I gave her that crown, and shortly after I had another daughter. So it changed the way I thought as far as being a man, because I have two queens now, along with my queen, my princesses and queens. So you throw away the black book, you start, losing yourself to focus on your family. So I did a lot of that. And I put myself last and stuff like that. But I started noticing things about what she needed from me. Was it me, or was it the money that I was making, or the things that I can provide? I was in the mortgage industry at the time, and we went through a crash, and money became a little tight. And so that's the Superman thing, where you're always saying yes all the time. So what happens when we say, hey, baby, we need to, cut back, we need to scale back. You have cats out there still slanging the D-boys and stuff like that. So my wife was attracted to money, but I didn't care about that because I had a Superman complex. I thought it was more about the D and the C, debt and cash, and not about paying attention to your surroundings. Because I felt like I was untouchable. Nobody could touch me because, I was laying it down, whatever. But in relationships, it's more than just the physical and the cash flow. It's also the mental and the spiritual connections that you have. And my mom always told me, make sure you marry somebody that's evenly yoked.
Yes.
That goes more than spiritual, that goes financial, and all aspects of it. It's like a tripod. If one of them things not straight, it's going to fall over. So, things happen in the marriage. I'm not going to talk about that because she is getting better. But we went through a divorce, and it was because of some infidelities, not on my part, because that was my queen. Believe it or not, it wasn't on me. But I felt like a failure because I couldn't hold my family together. So that led to a lot of other things when you go through the divorce and you're not reaching out to your brothers for help. I went into a cocoon. A lot of people was asking me what was going on. Can it be of help? I didn't want to talk about it because I was embarrassed. A lot of things was happening. Gave away the house, didn't seek any counsel, just gave away a lot of stuff. But you remember the story I told you about people when they draw in and they mess up? She found out messed up. But at the time, I didn't understand. So instead of trying to fix things, she made things worse. Not only did she take it out on me, she took it out on my kids. I ended up getting both of my kids with me. There's a lot of things that happened with that. Even when I found out about the divorce, she didn't even talk to me about it. I was served on my job in the worst embarrassing way. They just served me my papers right there. You always had that girl at the front desk like, oh, no, she didn't. I was like, oh, man, it's just so embarrassing. So basically wanted to hide. But, I went through all that, and she started hating the kids and using the kids as a weapon. I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know how to fight it because as football players, when we were faced with adversity, all we knew was to smash and go harder, go in at them. And I had one of my best friends, Mr. Jesse Houston. He told me, he said, man, you're a brilliant businessman. Take the emotion out of it. Learn how to go through this divorce as a business transaction so you can take care of yourself. I couldn't take the emotion out of it, man. Went in depression, just hyperventilating because I couldn't see my two daughters. and they played a lot of games with that. But I learned to get out of it, and you know, sought advice from different coaches. Coach Jones, I appreciate you. He told me some things, and I'll be honest with you, man. I'm from Miami. We got that man mentality. The dudes she was messing with in games, they were still trying me. So I wanted to act like it was Halloween. If you know what that means, I wanted to mask up and go handle that. But I had mentors that told me, you know, you can't do things like that. And of course, I was stubborn. I was well connected. So I was like, man, I ain't worried about none of that. I ain't worried about none of that. Nobody could touch me. But he, you know, he sat me down and told me some things that saved my life.
Yes.
You know, I could have been in jail. I could have done a lot of crazy, stupid things and not even being able to be there for my daughters. So it goes about communication. And it's a lot of things about having that macho stigma, that black man stigma, where we don't even talk about the things that we're going to, but women have a big support staff that helps them.
Absolutely. And thank you. And that's one of the things, as I said, I'm proud of you, black man. And that's why we have the month of Black Man's Dialogue. Because as I listen to you say certain things, man, you were being transparent. Right. And then the Suave philosophy of Dr. Brother Suave is transparency equates to empowerment. And so as you was talking about this, it was, you know, and I remember the 9 divine personality characteristics. It's some affirmations that I created. Is always having accountability partners, but sometimes our ego and our pride don't want to talk and share, and sometimes we don't have an opportunity to be held accountable, because what happens is, see, when you're emotional, emotions block your ability to be sensible, rational, and logical. So sometimes you don't make the best decisions when you're in that state of mind.
Right.
When you have somebody to bounce some things off, because they're not in a hurricane when you are. So they can make some good decisions for you. And then sometimes they'll talk to you and say, listen, go get counseling. Because of somebody that they can talk to who are professionals, they're objective, and they're not taking your side, they're taking and being the voice of reason. And so I just think, like when you was, it's a theory I call the RRJ process. That means you romanticize, rationalize, and justify. And that's when you was feeling that you could change a person.
Right.
And we can't.
Cannot.
You know, and then sometimes that happens when a person thinks that they can change a person, especially when you are, and I could say, a person who's doing well for themselves, good looking, athletic, you know, the man on campus doing some big things. I know I had that ego, and you just say, and so sometimes when you have that option to pick and choose what you want,
right?
Because I think this stigma that they think that we don't want to be married and settled down, but sometimes because we may think this, and we look at a certain person a certain way, they don't understand we want it, but sometimes they have to act a certain way. So when we actually fall in love, make that commitment and marry and have children,
it's all hard.
Yeah, like you said, you threw away the black book. Same here. And then you like, now you starting to see another side. You're like, wait, whoa. And then the weird thing is sometimes you're like, hey, what's going on? And then when it goes left, you're like, man, you know, maybe I missed some things.
Right.
Maybe I should have slowed down. And I think that's one of the things in terms of my failed relationships. I wrote this book called The 10 Commandments of Intimacy, Guidelines to Building Strong, Healthy, and Compatible Relationships from a Social, Spiritual, and Clinical Perspective. So when you was mentioning equally yoked, it just made me think, because equally yoked is just not from a spiritual perspective.
Correct.
When it comes from a social perspective, a developmental perspective, a financial perspective, a psychological, and so many different areas other than your spiritual philosophy, like you being a Baptist and she's being a Baptist. There was a lot of other things. Because you could be a Baptist, but you could be a crazy Baptist. You could be a Baptist, but you could be a broke Baptist. You could be a Baptist that has a whole bunch of generational curses attached to you. So those are the things that I think we have to really examine. And I just listen to all of us when we have to always be mindful how important emotional intelligence is. And I just want to tell you, I'm happy that you had the brother Jesse who mentored you, and I think some of the other coaches. And we have to
Yeah,
use
Coach
our resources.
Jones. Yeah, Coach Jones. He helped me out a lot.
Yeah, and I could tell you this, and those who listening, for any brothers who know me, I'm gonna always sow into the brother's life, and I'm not sitting there giving myself a pat on the back, but I will have some strong conversations when it comes to my brothers' accountability and try to share some of my knowledge with them, because it's important that we are transparent and we share and we mentor each other and talk about each other, because there's so much we can learn, because a lot of times some people didn't always have the same background. So if you have some information, people don't understand, it's about the strong sowing to the lives of the weak, and not saying that people are weak, but weak in terms of resources or information. So man, that's definitely, I appreciate you, man.
Yeah, I want to touch one more thing. You said about responsibility. We got to take responsibility, because one of the things I had to do during the divorce is take these courses and understand what happened. Even though she was real left with that, I had a lot of responsibility in it too, by creating that monster.
Mm-hmm.
You the one who didn't say no. You the one who always
Yes.
said with the money. You the one who created this, and I'm like, what do you mean, me?
Yeah.
Oh, man, I'm the best thing to slice bread. What are you talking about? So we have to take responsibility in a lot of things that we do, and understand that if you pick a snake bites you, whose fault is it? Is it the snake, or is it your fault? You're the one who did that. You're not taking responsibility for your actions. And if you creating this stigma of you can do all this stuff and you don't keep it up, and where you matter and how you matter is how you're going to lose it. So we got to take some responsibilities too for some of the things that happen in a relationship, and own up to the things. And some of the things I have in my point is always hearing and listening. Hearing from the advanced, the advice that you're getting, or listening to your mate, or just listening to that inner self of that God man that's talking to you about it. Take responsibility for some of these things that you go through, because in each argument, it's always two sides. In a relationship, it's always mostly with two people. So there's another side to it. So certain parts I had to take responsibility to it, understand how to cultivate myself, so I wouldn't bring the baggage into the next relationship. Which honestly, I said, I could say that I did. I was some damaged goods, as you can say. I lost it during the divorce. My mom, passed away. She was a minister, and she says, "Let's pray." I said, "Man, I want to hear nothing from God. I want to be a monster. I don't want nothing like that. Try to do this or that, and I would go bad places and do bad things, and people look at me and I said, "This is not you, man. Don't get in this." Even with my brothers in South Carolina State and Central, they was having all these alumni stuff, man. I was secluded. I'd never reached back out to none of them cats. I haven't been back there for a while, but I was in a dark spot, man. I was in the dark places, and my true friends, they know about that, man. Lost tons and tons of thousands of dollars of going back and forth to court, trying to see my babies, spending all this. People give me advice, but it wasn't really seeking. So responsibility and listening, man, is a key point to overcoming some of these hurdles and tragedies.
Yeah. And I think sometimes seclusion may be a bad thing, but it's a time to reflect, rejuvenate, and think about moving forward. And that's one of the things that when you take that time, because see, you can sit there and blame others, but like you said, taking personal responsibilities, taking your time to learn about yourself. And you do that through self-care, self-love, emotional intelligence, and self-awareness, also with accountability partners. Those things are vital. And so sometimes when you sit there and have responsible people in your circle,
not yes people, but there's somebody that's telling you when you're wrong and right.
Yes. Yeah. So I always say, if a person loves you and respect you, they're not afraid to confront those behaviors.
Right.
It's not that they hate you or dislike you. They just like the actions and the behaviors, and they know the outcome.
Right. Which I want to talk about this too. You say sit back in seclusion, which is good, but it leads me to my next topic about the mental and physical abuse. Like sometimes we as Black men, or just men period, we don't talk about this kind of stuff. So being alone sometimes will have a negative effect on us in all these kind of relationships. Because we're football players and athletes, sometimes we don't know how to handle these little things, man. We need somebody to talk to us because crazy thoughts go in your head. You know,
Yeah.
you want to retaliate. So it's a lot of mental stuff that's going out there. Look at Johnny Depp. You never would think that was going on with him. Look at Will Smith, very successful, abuse. And, you know, one of our brothers that we lost, man, Steve McNair. You never would have thought that, man. Money doesn't change things, man. It's a lot of mental and physical abuse that goes on in these bad relationships. And we need to talk about it and seek help and talk to our brothers. We hide that and we sweep that under the rug. So in my case, you know, I had a spiritual background. So at least my faith in God was enough, you know, or close enough to help me out. And I did have a few good brothers around me to help me out. But I was a good wreck, man. I didn't think I was handsome anymore. I didn't think that I was successful enough. And, you know, believe it or not, man, when I met this dude, I'm like, this what she did that shit for? And 9 out of 10 times, man, when somebody dogs you or does something wrong, that person is nothing what you thought. You know, I had all these things. I did do tall.
There's so much go
man. This man was a clown, which even hurt even more because if he was better than me, or at least to my standards of being better than me, I'd be like, yeah, I understand. But, you know, it was a shock on my ego. My ego took a lot. And, you know, a man's pride sometimes is his downfall. And me being a star athlete, you know, when somebody's across from you, that cornerback, you know, I want to beat you, man. I always want to win. So at this point, I wasn't winning. I didn't really know how to deal with it. So mental and physical abuse. Let's talk about that, man.
So let's talk about it. So do you believe that physical and mental abuse, do you think men experience these things?
Yeah, it's just not put out to the front. Now, let me give you an example. After I went through the divorce and stuff, so I mean other girls, and, you know, I wasn't, like we say, playing the radio. So a lot of these people, I tell them, hey, you know, I got time for you, but they start stalking you and throwing rocks and breaking your windows, and you go to the police station, hey, I want to file a restraining order. They laughing at you. Oh, this girl hit me and I'm crying. They laughing at you. You see a man crying and pleading out his soul. Next thing, he's a meme on social media. And we keep it to ourselves. We don't say that girl hurt me, because you do that, you weak. You consider it as being weak. But you know, there's a lot of girls that take advantage of these men, social and mental and physical. Some girls beat on them. Some of them got some real good jabs and stuff like that. But that mental abuse is something different, though.
Absolutely.
It doesn't show up. You get hit, you have a scar that heals. But that mental abuse, you don't know how deep it went. You don't know the depths of it. You know, we as men, we want to be loved too. You know, we have that Superman complex, but we want to come home and be loved. But you telling somebody they're not good enough. What you're doing is not good enough. You're doing everything in your power to make sure. So mentally, it does take a toll. And you need to get help with that, because you're not going to be good for the next person. You're not, and that's one of the things that I appreciate your show with, is because you do reach out. And I'm going to tell you guys out there, this man does this off air too. He don't always call you for the money or none of that stuff. He checks in on you. Hey, how you doing, bro? I just want to talk to you. He still knows about his stupid school and stuff, but he reaches out to me every freaking time. And you know, he be traveling, jet setting, and we talk noise about things, but it's always about reaching out. It's not always about money. It's just checking on your brother. Are you okay? You know, and that's one of the things I want to tell you about. And it does exist. Mental abuse for men, it does exist. Will Smith, you know, it was hard for me to see that. You know, I understand all sides of it. Could he have handled it differently? But you don't know the day-to-day mental things. And he just broke down and he reacted. Some of us react with guns and we shoot the next man over somebody that doesn't even care about us, man. Like, it could have, you know, everybody say, oh, I would have did it different. You don't know what you would have done. You know, I know some guys who caught their significant others right in the bed. I never had that experience, but I was like, brother, how did you do it? He was able to walk away. But we got to have forms available to understand how to deal with these things. And one of our viewers say it does exist. Yeah, it exists. And all these men is, you know, we take it to ourselves and we hold it in. You know, we don't want to tell somebody just that thing hurt me, because you don't want to get laughed at. But we need to heal, because it filters down to your children, it filters down to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next. And some of these women, right? Well, I don't got a good man. The man started off good. He met a couple of y'all, and then his whole viewpoint changed.
And that's as a result of trauma. So when you experience trauma, it could be generational. However, it changed your perception of the world, and and it significantly impacts relationships. And you was mentioning something about abuse. I remember being attacked when as again, a lot of people are learning things from social media. They're learning things from hearsay, and they're learning things off the street. But as a professional, you learn about statistics. And I say numbers don't lie; they are stubborn. And when it comes to domestic violence and violence, a lot of times people don't know and they get offended. And this is what I'm saying. It can't go from 0 to 100. You can ask questions like, well, where do you get those numbers from? Well, the CDC and on Department of Black Statistics and all those things, just learning. And statistics were showing that women commit violence a lot more. It's just that we, as the male species, we don't report it. So let's say you get in an argument, you may get struck 3 or 4 or 5 times. You get it? 3 or 4 or 5 times until you get fed up and you push one time and then the police been called.
Yep, I'm a witness to that.
And then so what happens is there are the reports are so skewed, but when they get down to it, they find out that it's just these narratives are presented. And so with the emotion abuse, and this is one of the things that, again, a lot of deflection goes on in our community when they talk about toxic masculinity. But I don't think people really understand when it comes to mental abuse, when it comes to toxic femininity, saying things and becoming so masculine and taking on those characteristics and saying, well, I don't love a man, or I'm not doing this. And those things, for the brothers who want to be in a relationship, they're getting mentally manipulated, hurt. And it is a thing out there. And I think sometimes, but they only address our issues. And together we have to be able to have not only a Black man's dialogue, not only a Black woman's dialogue, but a dialogue between the genders, so we can have a better understanding, because we need to improve these dynamics.
Right.
But it just has to stop going from 0 to 100 in a matter of seconds. We have to be able to listen to one another and respect each other, and stop misinterpreting what a person says. Quote people, quote them. Don't change what they said for your benefit. And that hurts us. So if I say, this is my favorite color, black, don't say, well, I think he said it's sort of black, but I believe it's sort of gray. They said black, and leave it as so. Right. If you want to ask questions, but do not misinterpret or misquote the person. So, man, I'm happy that you was discussing mental and physical health, because abuse, because those things exist. And I think society as a whole, we need to really come to the realities of these dynamics.
And I want to talk about that a little bit more. You got to be in tune with yourself, because it happened to me, got in an argument, like brothers were saying, my ex-wife, light skin and everything, and, start getting all out of crazy. And I made this statement like, look, there ain't nothing you could do to me physically. So you need to stop this, man. And, you hold them down, and next thing, whoop, whoop, they're there. And it's a nice conversation. When one cop comes, the next cops come, next thing you're being roped off. But, I was an athlete. So you mouthing off to the cop like that. I was jumped on. She started. Next thing I know, I'm in the back of the paddy wagon. You got an arrest record. You got to explain this shit in the financial field. That stuff follows you, man. Be careful. Understand what you're dealing with. Walk away. Talk to somebody. Talk about these things, because that case, it went a certain way. Another case, you may snap. You as an athlete, you may be stronger than her. Like that, you snap and you grab her, you do some things there, and then the kids see it. It's just a bad situation.
Yeah,
and that
absolutely.
Stuff follows you. That stuff follows you around. So we got to get in control of that. It's a lot of abuse, but you got to have the channels to understand how to react to it and to know what to do to it, and talk to brothers. Oh, that happened to you? Oh my gosh, now I know what to do. I heard it on the podcast. Just walk away. As soon as you see it, man, just walk away.
Yeah.
Remove yourself from the room. Take a nap. Run. Get away from that situation. Because not all females, but some females, they're quick to put the lie in between you. You're going to be cuffed up. And then you're going to be struggling, trying to figure out what's happening. So
I definitely agree. Because one of the most painful experiences in life is the pain and regret. So sometimes it's imperative that we just walk away, forget about winning that very small battle. You're trying to win the big war. And the big war is trying to keep those felonies off you, trying to keep those regrets off you, and trying to do whatever you can to be the best man, best father, best human being as possible, you know?
Yeah, because the last time that happened to me, it happened to me twice, but the second time, my daughter actually saved me because she was able to tell the cops what had happened. My daddy didn't do nothing; he just stood there and she was just punching on him or whatever. But if my daughter wasn't there,
Yeah.
I'd have been under the jail cell. But it was sad that she saw that. But I was glad that my daughter was there. My daughters ended up staying with me. They was there for a lot of things that you got to go through with the system. Even when you go to court doing divorce, they don't even want to hear you.
No.
They don't even talk to you. They tell you to shut up. Gentlemen, you got to know your rights, man. You got to be prepared. Take notes. The day that I walked out, I thought that was it. I was still giving money, but when I went to court, none of that was relative. They said it was a gift. You walked out and you didn't.
I definitely.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and that's the thing. The thing is, it's almost like our word is nothing. And the thing is, even when you have receipts, they say it's a gift. And as far as I'm concerned, I think they need to say, hey, okay, if you could produce these receipts say it's going towards a child. Let's use some discretion to say, well, this receipt wouldn't say Lively Kids Daycare if it wasn't for a daycare. And the thing is, you having the receipts, and they need to use the discretion and say, you know what, this is what you're going to pay, but you're going to get credit for this point. Because when you don't get credit for all that, it adds up. And I'm definitely a witness. I mean, I experienced that. So I'm like, whoa, wait, I did this, and you're gonna tell me? I understand you giving me a monthly payment, but I do think I should receive some type of credit because I did produce these documents, documents for chairs, these documents
you got to be organized.
But the thing is, Brother Fred, even with those documents, they just won't believe you. But they can believe the other party. And this is why sometimes I think we are like puppets with the system, because it's almost like she could say anything and they believe it.
You have to prove it. I'll give you an example with me. My daughter ended up living with me when she was 11, and I had two daughters. So we made an arrangement to where I would take care of one, she'd take care of the other one. I was kind of well off. So we had private attorneys. I never went through the court system. Gentlemen, get on the papers to save you. But anyway, went through the court system. I had my private
papers, brothers.
Yeah, I went through my private attorney. So I tell my daughter. So for 7 years, I had my daughters was up and down. I was in the mortgage industry. Then finally got back situated. I didn't have everything on paper, so she went back and told the people I ain't never paid anything. So imagine 7 years. You don't have documents from then. A lot of things changed. They came after me for $145,000.
Oh, so I guess you beat me out, huh?
They froze all my stuff. I was in the process of buying a townhouse with rooms for both of my daughters, and all of a sudden my stuff was being frozen. I'm like, what happened? I mean, they come up with brothers when they're $100 behind. How do I get to $145,000 behind on child support?
Yes.
Gentlemen, that ruins your credit.
Yes.
It ruins your ability to get jobs. You can get your license suspended. You could go to jail.
Been there, bro. I know
all of that. All of that. And I work in the financial field. I know what it's like when underwriters see that deadbeat job behind on child support.
Yes.
And you don't get homes. You don't get loans.
Yes.
You cannot function. Your driver license is suspended. They have no, because of some bad guys out there, they didn't see that. And I have my daughter with me.
Well, so it's not just your driver's license, any of your credentials.
Right. And when
those credentials could be in your profession. And so when they suspend those things, it affects your ability to work. So not just the driving, but the credentials. And you're like, hey, wait, what's going on? And it's like they judge you based on what those things happen. And a lot of things are so unfair. Mm-hmm. But this is what I tell people. There is a difference, ladies, between the man, a grown boy, and an adult male. See, we could, as men, we can go through things, but guess what? Men understand how important it is to stay focused. Don't let your emotion dictate your actions.
Right.
By doing something that, as I say, one of the most painful experiences of life is the pain of regret. You got to stay focused on the prize, and the prize is our children. The prize is representing ourselves as not a stereotype of being a deadbeat, not being a stereotype of the man who's going to live off a woman, not being a stereotype of the man who's going to understand that we're going to have some trials and tribulations, some ups and downs. But guess what? At the end of the day, we end up continuing to be successful, continuing to be driven, and continue to reach Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And we end up being successful because we are getting to the point of self-actualization. And we do it. And this is one of the things I try to say. A lot of times I hear ladies, there's no good men out there. It's actually a lot of good men out there. And then I think they have to start understanding the difference between the grown men, the grown boys, the grown males, the grown boys, the adult males, and the men. Because when they stereotype men, we all do what we're supposed to do. So when we're having this thing, black men don't cheat, that's exactly what we mean. Because they getting us mixed up with the black grown boys or the black adult males. Men, we handle our business. You know, that's why I'm always saying I'm proud of you, black man. And so a lot of times they're hearing as what we're talking about tonight. You know, we hurt, we cry, we get upset, we have feelings. We love our children. We don't want to be separated from our children. We don't want to be abused emotionally, psychologically, physically. And we have issues when it comes to depression. We get sad, you know, and a lot of times when we try to be responsible enough to communicate those needs, sometimes those things are taken advantage of. And so, and I think as a result of being, like they say, hurt people, and sometimes this happens. So you have a person named Charles Cummings. How do you know when you crossed over into manhood? Okay, would you like to answer, or I answer?
Well, I'll tell you my version of knowing when you cross over to manhood is how you respond to things.
Absolutely.
That's it. When I was a child, I did childish things. When I became a man, I put away those childish things and act differently. It's a way of being. You know, you don't respond the same way. You don't do the same things the same way. Let's give you a simple one. You pay your bills on time so you don't have no bad credit. That's part of it. You know, certain little things you go on and you start maturing. Dude says something to you on the street. That dude don't even know me. He going through whatever. I don't even work that way. Knowing how to deal with your female. A guy says something to you, girl. Of course he should say something. She look good. Hey, you know, it's just maturity level. Getting over to a manhood. It's a mentality. And when it happens, you don't know it because you're gonna say, "Oh man, I remember how I used to respond to this. I remember how I used to do this." It doesn't even act that way. How I not become selfish and I'm putting other things first. My children come first. My woman does this and that. There's a problem with the roof. I handle that. Those how you know. It's not a word or a thing. It's actions.
Yes, absolutely. And Brother Cummings, a man takes care of his family, his responsibility, his community, his family, and always sowing it to others. See, again, a lot of us, a great percentage of us, may not had fathers in our lives. So, and some have. So you have to look at brothers who didn't have, and they overcame that. And they challenged themselves to be a better human being, a better person, and being responsible. See, the thing is, there is decisions which you make. Because a lot of times we only hear perspectives from our mothers, aunties, and grandmas. And when you learn to be responsible, you understand you don't take advantage of your community. You don't take advantage of your children. You definitely don't take advantage of your women. And the women could be your grandmothers, your aunties, your mothers. See, when you start to, again, Brother Fred was saying, paying your own bills, paying your own way. You don't call yourself a man going from mama to another female house. And from another female, she kick you out back to mama. You learn how to be a man by saying no and taking on the responsibility. See, it was this man, he's my uncle. He never had anything. But the one thing he did was he kept that life insurance for his child. He lived over there in a rooming house. So he spent about 30 years in one room, but he never asked anybody for anything. He went to work every day. He always came over to my grandparents' house and helped my grandmother and did things around the house. While my grandfather was at work, he would take my grandmother places. He would always make sure he would support his grandchildren, making sure he was always supportive to all their events. He would always support his daughter, and he was always standing in the paint protecting his family. He didn't have anything, but he always stood his ground. So he didn't go and stay with any women. He didn't worry about impressing, but he was able to take care of himself.
Right.
And he wasn't trying to compete with anybody. You understand? And a lot of times, I think sometimes you have to be able to learn how to pay your own bills, keep a roof over your house, yourself, keep a roof over your head, get your own transportation, you can catch Uber, bus, or whatever. But learning how to depend on yourself. I just don't think a man just go ahead and just live with a lady and let her take care of everything. I just think that's bad. And sometimes guys don't have that information and they do it. But once you have a level of consciousness, because I don't think you do better when you know better. I think when you acquire discipline, I think discipline is more important than knowledge, because it's evident that we know we shouldn't be having children out of wedlock. We should be saving. We should be making better decisions, investment, and understanding equal yoke. So we know this stuff, but it's not just about knowledge. It's about discipline. So, and being able to talk to other brothers about what you see. And I like your question, because a lot of brothers out there thinking they're a man, and that's just, all of us are males. That brother right there, Mr. Jones, that brother right there, Dr. Brother Suave, listen, I'm not going to brag, but I earned my title as a man. It says we need to get back to the basics. Absolutely. Because see, what happens is we get so far advanced that we forget about the basics. Like people say, you crawl before you walk. No, you crawl, you stand up and learn how to balance yourself, then you walk. There's basics to everything.
Right.
We
Which
can't
leads
skip steps. We have to understand.
but leads into the next topic for us. What role does social media plays in all this?
Oh
Because
my
the
God.
basics have been shot out the window because of what we see on social media. We're a little bit older, so imagine what these young men in relationships are going through now, where everything they've been doing is put on blast. The mental abuse is put on blast. Your girl is doing other things, but it's put on blast.
Yes.
The way of living is put on social media. You can't do X, Y, and Z for your wife. Let's talk about that. How you do the basis with that when it's all over social media?
Yeah, I think everything does not require to be on social media. But I saw something today was very disturbing to me. It was and again, these behaviors are so toxic. But when you're holding this group accountable, they get frustrated and think it's disrespectful. So I saw a video today, and it said, "Oh, you say I'm so pretty, I'm so pretty," and then it says, "Yes, but I got an effed up attitude, and you better not try me." And it's funny how they bragging about that as though that's a badge of honor. That's toxic. It's just foul, and they're bragging about it. And I think these attitudes, you see videos where they're doing certain things, or a man beating a woman or a woman beating a man, and these are things that we are showing when we know that's not how relationships should be, and we definitely should not brag about being violent towards one another. And so one of the things that you were talking about social media, and I think it definitely has done a bad thing, but it is also people out there, coaches and people who are trying to be inspirational, who are trying to send positive messages. It's just unfortunate that so many people gravitate to negativity versus a positive. So again, I think that sometimes you just have to get a support system, get a circle, and you can basically address issues of mental health, our wellness, and our stability, and we listen to one another.
Yes. And that's what we're doing, and that's why I appreciate you. I know you got some other blogs that you talk about these issues, because what I went through, I really didn't have all that kind of help to really help me out. Grace of God, I made it to where I'm at now. It was a lot of stuff going on, a lot of things that we didn't know financially, mentally, to help me out as a man. I learned through trial and error, but I'm a living witness that you can overcome. As long as you can look up, you can get up. So it's great. We have another question there. She was Amanda is just saying that it's so true. It can affect you in certain kind of ways, good or bad. It definitely can affect you. But the positive side of social media, it allows me to link with my brother, to touch out to other brothers. We talked about the circle of support. I met with a couple other brothers the other day, and there's a lot of great men out there doing things and trying to reach back to claim what's ours and make sure that we have great relationships. The relationships is the key to us prospering. The relationships are broken right now. Your brothers that were on last week, they had me glued because they were talking about relationships and Africa and how they do this and how they, talk about the stories. I mean, I couldn't get out I was just like, whoa, I hadn't heard that in so long, talking about the old stories, how we watch this or how we watch that. Those are the basis we need to get back to, and the basis is family. And we come from broken family, and it continues to happen again. We got to get back to loving one another and holding each other accountable, and stop putting your black brothers down, and vice versa. Stop putting your sisters down. And I must admit, I love me some sisters. Trust me. I went through my divorce though. I dated outside because I had enough. But the best thing in the world is a black woman that you can keep. But we got to get that back and restore our kind and our culture. And even for my brown and Hispanic brothers, we need to do all the same thing, man. It's more than saggy pants and not raising our kids and letting these women raise our kids, because it's going to be the same thing over and over again. The core is family, man. Family values, loving each other. Like Brother Suave said, he didn't want this to be another hate segment, because it's not a hate segment. I didn't dwell on what really happened. I dwell on the success after what happened, and just put it back to you that you can grow from there. And a shout out to my ex-wife. She's trying to do what's right now. It'll be over for us, but there's still kids involved that are grown and older that are having their own kids. So it's all about forgiveness and moving on. And forgiveness is another topic that maybe Brother Suave needs to do, because that is freaking hard to do. I'm like, man.
Well, And just remember, there's nothing a person can do to you that you can't forgive them. And that's one thing we have to understand about the struggle with forgiveness, and understanding how important it is. Because again, the forgiveness is not always about others, but it's about yourself and how you relieve yourself of that sometimes trauma and the moral and spiritual consequences of not forgiving. So, man, thank you so much. Listen, I want to say one thing. If you're interested in having a Black man's dialogue, just check on my website, www.brothersuave.com. That's www.brothersuave.com, and reach out to me via email, and maybe we can come together and have our Black man's dialogue and discuss some of these issues, and I can come and give a presentation. So thank you, Mr. Fred Jones. Thank you so much.
Shout out to my boy Raul. I saw you, dog. Yes, his brother. The boy holds me down. He done went through the same thing, even though he's not a pegment of me. He knows what I'm talking about.
Yes, a lot of us have, and this is why we was able to have a Black man's dialogue. And I think that a lot of us need to have these discussions, and that's why I delegated this month to discussing these issues. And I thank you so much. And this has been definitely a mind-blowing, thought-provoking, and eye-opening experience. So just remember, great minds reach great places. I love you. I mean it. Bye-bye.
This program was made possible by Neighborhood Planet Broadcasting Systems, Neighborhood Planet Network, and from contributions to NPN TV from viewers like you.